Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I want to educate you about schizophrenia and specifically a very interesting article that I just read about schizophrenia. I'm going to put a link to the article in the description to this video. But when we first started to do this work, this kind of behavioral health work and working to save families back in 2016, I would tell you the majority of our cases were alcohol and recreational drug use. But two things really changed the dynamics of the cases we handle that made them considerably more challenging from a clinical perspective, which makes them considerably more challenging from a legal perspective. And that was number one, the coronavirus, COVID, the shutdown and the related stresses and anxiety and mental health issues that we started to see that were coming through the front doors of our office. The second thing was the legalization of marijuana here in Florida, which I think has been an unmitigated disaster from a mental health perspective. So this article is titled Schizophrenia Myths versus Facts, what this serious mental illness really looks like. And I can't tell you how many of these kinds of cases that are coming through our doors. These are challenging. And it even says here, schizophrenia is a complex, chronic, and severe mental disorder that affects how a person thinks, feels, and behaves. It is a brain disorder, not a flaw in character or a lack of moral strength. I'm so glad they have said this, because I think for a long time, number one, there's been a lot of stigma around mental illness. And two, I think for a lot of families, mums and dads that we speak to from all over the country, it's a sort of a source of frustration for them, and they can't understand why does their loved one decide or choose to live this way. They're not choosing to live this way, okay? This is a disease, and I always sort of use the whole idea of the quote, kidnapped brain. It's as if their brain has been kidnapped, and it's been kidnapped by this horrible disease. So it goes on to say, schizophrenia affects a person's ability to understand reality, which causes major disruption in their daily life. They're living in a different universe, which is why they do not think there's anything wrong with them. It's why they're in denial about what's going on. And it's why, there's sort of the butt of their heads between the family and their loved one. They're just not living on the same planet as us. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. The symptoms of schizophrenia fall into three main groups: positive, negative, and cognitive. And here are some of the positive symptoms: hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking. That's just the positive symptoms. Here's the negative. A lack of motivation or drive to start and maintain activities, a noticeable reduction in speech, the inability to feel pleasure from things that once brought joy, spending very little time with other people. I mean, these are things that we see every day, and these are really big red flags. And if you're starting to see these things, there's a problem. Maybe it's schizophrenia, maybe it's not. But there's a common theme here that this article, I think, really highlights. There's cognitive symptoms: difficulty focusing or paying attention, trouble understanding new information and making decisions, poor working memory, which is the ability to use information immediately after learning it. Not everyone with schizophrenia will experience these symptoms, and the severity can differ greatly from person to person. What happens without treatment? And I know that I've put a lot of content about what happens. I mean, ultimately, if you've got a loved one who is suffering from a behavioral health issue, there's a couple of options. Number one, do nothing. And like any disease, it will get worse, and it will eventually destroy the host, your loved one, and it will destroy your family too, because behavioral health, this disease is like a metastasizing cancer, and it will destroy your family. It's already doing it, but you know that. So you could do nothing, and the consequences are severe. You can hope that the state steps in. So a lot of the time when somebody is dealing and suffering from a behavioral health issue, they either end up getting arrested, right, because they make poor decisions, and they end up as a guest of the state through the criminal justice system, or they get Baker Acted, or whatever your state's version of the Baker Act is, which is the statute that allows the state to basically grab somebody and take them into custody through the mental health system. I can tell you from 20 plus years in the criminal system on both sides of the courtroom, and 10 plus years working in this behavioral health space, the state does a really, really lousy job of taking care of people with a behavioral health issue. You don't want that to happen, but it will if you don't take action. The other option, obviously, is that you do something about this, and well, that's where we step in, right? Worsening symptoms, hallucinations, and delusions can become overwhelming and constant. Untreated schizophrenia is linked to a much higher risk of suicide, which is a leading cause of premature death among people with the disorder. Individuals may also engage in dangerous behavior driven by delusions. Without treatment, the illness can lead to socialization, financial hardship, and in many cases, homelessness. Cognitive abilities may decline over time, and the longer psychosis goes untreated, the harder recovery can become. And we talk about this with families. The further down the proverbial rabbit hole your loved one is, the harder it is to get them out. And I tell every family, think of this journey as a year long. You don't have to hire us for a year, but there's got to be probably a year of some treatment, right? Residential, partial hospitalization, living in a recovery residence, taking their medications, continuing with outpatient services, getting a sponsor. I mean, all of the things are the skills that they will need to maintain recovery for the rest of their life, because otherwise things are going to continue to get worse. So I'm going to show you the link to this article. You can read it for yourself. But here's the bottom line. This is a horrible disease, and like any behavioral health issue, it needs to be treated or it will get worse. Anyway, I appreciate you tuning in. If you have any comments or questions, post them. I read all of them, and I typically respond within 24 hours, usually the same day. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm now putting out more than one video every day. I'm typically doing 2 a day, and I want to make sure that you get the content, get the information that you need, so you as a family can decide if you want to consider the legal option. So I appreciate you tuning in. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.